Welcome to Code Hangout number 98. Today we're going to come up with some wild game mechanics. Alright, and what do I mean by wild? Well, by wild I mean things you would not traditionally find in a pencil puzzle or something like a Sudoku. So I want to start taking more advantage of being a video game, of being in a digital medium. And today what I want to do is I want to come up with some good ideas, flesh them out just a little bit, not quite enough to actually set puzzles with, and then I'm going to hand them over to the students of the 9x9 Creative Inquiry Group to try to set some puzzles with, and potentially, you know, come up with some good ways of using them, and hopefully also weed out the ones that aren't suitable. And then we'll maybe at the end have a look over them and pick one to actually implement in Sudoku Pad. And some of these ideas are things that have been bouncing around in my head for a while, and others maybe we'll come up with today. And the idea is to come up with things that are more video game-like, and maybe involve some additional interaction instead of just placing digits, you know, maybe something you press, maybe something that you move, maybe something you control even, maybe a character that moves, or maybe something you don't control, but, you know, a moving character that moves towards a digit or something like that. Or something like, you know, we'll get to the more details. Yeah, and hopefully take advantage of it being a video game and making it more interesting, and, you know, come up with something to elevate the medium perhaps, and or even broaden the appeal, maybe beyond just logic puzzles and so on. And as usual, if there's any issues with the audio video, let me know. Yeah, let's get started. And I think the Fog of War concept was sort of the first step in that direction, something that's not strictly possible with just a pencil puzzle. But it's a very mild first step, so I'm hoping to take it a little bit further than that today. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna first just write down and draft down some ideas. And in the end, I'll probably add them to my Sudoku Tools wiki here. And perhaps even add a spreadsheet for the 9x9 students, you know, a place where they can link to puzzles that they create using those constraints, so on and so forth. And I'll talk a little bit about the details of that, because, for example, there's a chicken and egg problem, right? If the feature doesn't exist in the app, how do you create a puzzle for it? And why would I add a feature to an app if there's no puzzles for it, right? So very, very strictly in this case, I want the students to come up with ways of creating the puzzles without the feature existing. You know, use your imagination, etc., etc. And for some mechanics that might just not be possible, so it'll be more of a thought exercise, right? I mean, Fog of War doesn't really work without the Fog of War, right? But you could imagine it, you know, and you could think about how you would set such a puzzle before the mechanic exists, right? You could prototype it on paper, etc. And each mechanic should have at least, I don't know, 3 to 5 puzzles that use it. Just to kind of show, like, because if somebody cannot come up with a couple of puzzles for it, then maybe it's not a good constraint to use. Maybe it's not a good mechanic to implement, right? And some mechanics we might be able to create a rough prototype. You know, maybe I can make it sort of work on the quick, roughly, to its core, to kind of to test out those ideas, you know. And other mechanics you might not be able to. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And then at the very end, I'd like to kind of pick some according to kind of the value they add, how interesting they are, how hard they are to implement, and so on and so forth. And according to that, add them to the game, right? All right, let me just double check all the different streams, make sure they're all working. See where people might pop in for the chats. All right. All right, so I'm going to write down some of the ideas that I've already had, just so I have them written down. So let's see. Let's give it a title. So concepts, right? Rough concepts, and then we can, you know, maybe narrow down and kind of boil things down and tighten up the ideas a little bit and add some details and so on and so forth. Now, there is a difficulty. I'm not a puzzle setter. I've never set up Sudoku, so it might be inappropriate for me to come up with these ideas. And but it's also tricky for the setters to come up with these ideas because they don't understand the software side of things. So that's kind of part of what's been holding this kind of line of inquiry back, because I've been wanting setters to come to me with crazy ideas so I could implement them. But for them, they don't know what's suitable, etc. And in fact, Chameleon, did the Fog of War thing by himself, and without that, I probably wouldn't have implemented it. And he didn't come to me before either to ask me to implement it. So anyway, so let's see what we've got. So there was some that have been bouncing around my head for a while. Okay, let's start with some really easy ones. So one easy one is simply basically the inversion of the Fog of War, right? So basically think of it as a rock that you have to break to see what's under it, right? So either a single cell or a group of cells, such as a cage, being covered, and something has to happen to uncover it, right? So hidden cell or cage, comma, think breakable block in video game, right? And this is basically a local version of the fog. And the interesting part here is the trigger. And that's, I think, where the power of this feature could be, right? So what triggers the reveal? And that's something the setter would have to kind of think about. So would it be placing a digit somewhere? Could it be a specific combination of things? Maybe filling in an arrow, maybe placing a certain line or color or something like that, or a combination of digits, maybe getting a sum right or something like that. What basically does the reveal, right? Because the Fog of War right now has a very limited trigger for the reveal, And you can't get too crazy with the fog because of the sort of global nature of it. But with something like this, like a local thing, maybe you can come up with a series of different kinds of triggers, and each one can be used in a different way, right? And it could even be, is it just hidden what's in that area, or does it change? In other words, could it be, there's a clue that's hidden. What's in the cell? Is it a blue cell? Is it a circle? Is it an odd even thing? Whatever. Or could it be something like... Oh, wait. Or could it be something like, once you've fulfilled the trigger, the cell actually changes. So you have to kind of two versions of a cell, or two versions of a clue, right? So that's one. Another one that I've been thinking about is the boulder dash constraint. And I'm just going to bring that up quickly. So Boulder Dash is a classic game with a grid-based layout. Actually, not Boulder Dash. Bomberman. Boulder Dash, yeah, it's actually different. Yeah, Bomberman, right? So in Bomberman, you basically have this kind of layout. This is... Yeah. Can I get a... That's... Okay, it's an old game, so or an old concept, so the art is quite low res. But basically the idea is you have a bomb that goes into the cardinal directions, up, down, left, right, to a certain range, depending on, I think you upgrade the bomb as you go along, and it blows up the blocks. But it also blows up you, so you have to kind of time where you place the bombs, and how to kill things. You have to time things for monsters to move. Now, that might not exactly work out the same way. And this could be combined with the hidden cell, covered cell, whatever you want to call it. Hey, Robin. Pencil mark. Yeah, it's not in the mobile app yet. The mobile app version is over 12 months old, so it will be in the next update. Yeah, the update is planned imminently. Anyway, so the Bomber Dash mechanic would have to be also combined with why do we blow things up and what do we blow up, right? Or what do we reveal in this kind of, So the bombs could either be placed potentially, but they could also be a result, right? So it could be, let's say, every time you you place a 9, it's a bomb, right? And then that bomb will open up a clue, you know, kind of maybe break these hidden cells, these blocks or whatever. Or it could change the digits in that direction in some way. All right, so let's call it the Bomberman for now. Right, so we'll have some mechanic that triggers something like an explosion affecting cardinal neighbors. What's the trigger? Uncovered or placed digit, perhaps. What's affected? Perhaps hidden cells, or hidden cells are uncovered. How, what's triggered? Place digit, perhaps, yes. And how does it work in detail? Range, timing, rimming? No, rhyming? What? Timing and critters? You know, maybe there are critters walking around and you need to blow them up, right? That's a potential mechanic, right? And let's call this Breakable Block. I'm gonna name these according to what is the sort of equivalent in video game. In fact, then we don't actually have to say that. All right. So these are relatively static, and Bomberman is quite vague. And I think afterwards I want to kind of categorize them, sort of how vague they are, how well developed they are, etc. A Marble Run is one. So Marble Run is one that that somebody else built actually as a sort of... So Marble Run was a mechanic that already exists, but it was a typical static mechanic. Sort of kind of imagine if a marble falls down and can only roll side to side, right? And then place lines and so on and so forth. But then somebody actually created a little animation that implemented it, and I actually implemented that in the app. But that could use some fleshing out, but it is a, you know, it's a video game mechanic that could be applicable. Hey, Catnip. Hey, Shelby. So let's call it Marble Run. So what is this? Imagine a gravity-driven marble falling in from some source and following some source and following a path. Depends on placed elements, comma, lines, comma, digits, see, lines, shading, some unplaced elements, such as shading. And marble may be anime marble follows falling in from source. And let's actually write it out here, rolling along a path. So marble may be triggered once, comma, continuously, or so the marble could literally be just, you know, like in the original Marble Run, that it's basically like, hey, if you've solved the puzzle, then the Marble Run can run, or triggered once, continuously, or just after solve. And I should, yeah, I mean, I'm placing question marks. I know which one is correct, are the questions, right? So, how is marble affected? What does the marble do. Like the marble could just be a reward, right? Hey, here's a little animation to entertain you, right? But it could also be, kind of the marble itself could do things. It could bump into digits and change them or something like that, right? I'm gonna turn this down a little so I can turn this up a little. I hope the music isn't too quiet now. I think it was a bit loud before, actually. I think we have a spammer, and they're always from Twitch for some reason. Let's see if Restream can block them from both. Oh, okay, I think that might work. Maybe not. Can I block? Oh wait, I want to report first. That's also like that I can't report and block and delete all in the same. Oh great, I have to give it the category of bot. And then I have to type in a message. Like, they're making it harder. As long as they make it harder on me to report the problem than for the bot to make the problem, it's always going to be a problem. Like, they're not going to solve anything. Anywho. All right. So Marble Run we've already seen. So these are kind of like the low-hanging fruit, right? And we have Fog of War, right? So Fog of War is already done, right? Marble Run. Marble Run. We have Prototype. Right? And Breakable Block is similar to Fog of War. But I'd like to go further, right? So what else? What else? Like, and I think the two main things I want to look at is animation. So for example, Marble Run could work with, you know, just adding a little bit of animation, nothing else, right? And interactivity. And interactivity, I think, is the interesting one. So what if something on the board becomes a button of some kind, right? Oh, before we go on, another one that's been sort of used already, but hasn't really been implemented in terms of video game mechanics is Minesweeper, right? So here the task would really be how to turn the existing sort of ideas and concepts for Sudoku Minesweeper, which is like, oh, you know, imagine this is all ones and nines are mines, and the digits around them indicate how many mines are seen, etc., etc. Turn that into the actual mechanic of Minesweeper. Now, the mechanic of Minesweeper isn't actually very interactive, right? Because in a weird way, you're kind of solving a Sudoku or a number puzzle, and there isn't nothing changes, really. You're just saying, hey, this is what I think the numbers are, and you either get them all right to the very end, or you run into a problem, you make a mistake, and you blow up, and you've lost. So it's kind of almost not exactly what I want, but it's already pretty popular and something people understand. So I think it might be another good sort of low-hanging fruit, right? So here the tricky part is, you know, is it a, you know, hit the mine and you lose type of situation? Is it maybe an additional interaction where you can place flags and it kind of actually reacts to that, you know? So kind of what actually distinguishes the existing Sudoku Minesweeper concepts from sort of the video game mechanic, right? Let's put this into some questions, right? So do we have additional mechanics such as placing flags? Additional feedback, automatic coloring for mines. It could just be as simple as additional symbols for mines, right? Just like sort of like Star Battle and things like that. And do we want to have because Sudoku itself doesn't really have you get it wrong and you're dead. You kind of can go back and change it. And I don't really want to change that. And Fog of War with the life system kind of tried to deal with that a little bit, which I didn't implement because I think I like the casual nature of it. And Minesweeper, the bare Minesweeper puzzle, I think, has to kind of blow up, because if you could just keep going, then there wouldn't really be anything to solve. But a Sudoku Minesweeper, you have that sort of puzzling aspect of how do you place the puzzle, the digits, and how do you decide what goes where, right? But again, this is kind of all on the setter to kind of design the details, right? And what would they want to see from the app to support a more video gamification? So I think in the final spreadsheet, I need to definitely have a column with some comments of like, what is the video gamification there? What does it add compared to just being, imagine ones and nines are mines, and you know, the sort of what goes beyond existing pencil puzzle rules that you could just do by just talking about it, right? All right, so these are most of the ones I think that I've seen in the past. Oh yeah, okay. So, and now we get to one that we're actually pretty close to, and we're still in the sort of in the field of almost static mechanics here, i.e. not interaction, not really video gamey. But basically there have been a few puzzles recently with placing ships, sort of what's it called, battleship style, where you sort of say, hey, here are the ships, you know. But in the past, we even had things like place this shape 9 times, this 3x3 shape 9 times in the board, or overlapping in different places. Or even Simon did a puzzle very recently where you had basically the 9 squares as separate mini puzzles, and then you had to figure out how they would go into the 9x9, right? So here the idea is we have sort of a drag and place kind of, or pick and place, let's call it, right? Pick and place. And we're going to do this, right? And this is basically make subgrids, make partial subgrids available for the player to drag into a specific location. This can be used for battleship mechanics. Is used for battleship mechanics, or solve several 3x3 mini puzzles and assemble into a 9x9. So these are all kind of examples of what it could be used for, right? Place an arrange of clues in place one or more arrangements clues in to various locations on the board. So we had, I definitely remember a puzzle where there was a set of clues, like lines and circles, a 3x3 set of clues that needed to be placed 5 times or 6 times, or a certain number of times, not matching into the 9x9, but like into different overlapping positions. And it would be cool if you could kind of drag it in and kind of drop it, sort of pick and place. And I'm gonna do this, drag and drop. And I think this is one of those that could really enable a whole bunch of puzzles and could really very easily integrate into the sort of current sort of static number puzzle genre. So yeah, there's definitely already puzzles out there with this. But I'd love to see kind of a more specific, like, you know, like for the battleships, the ones I've seen, they were usually 3 long. But, you know, maybe it makes sense to have like a pre-generated set of shapes that could be dragged in, and how would that be defined on the setting side, etc., you know? So this is another one that already more or less exists, right? So far, I think short of the Bomberman, which is probably the least detailed one, most of these are already existing, right? Now there are, like, when I think of Marble Run and Breakable Block and Bomberman, I immediately think of things like Donkey Kong and things like that. Hey, Red Finks. And I'm thinking like, okay, can we have things moving on the board, things falling down? And I kind of struggle to reconcile that with the current sort of static input system of clicking and placing digits, right? Because you don't have a moving character. And this is, I think, where we start getting a bit vague, and it's about it's more about the setter coming up with an idea, because I definitely would like something where you could move a character around the board, you know? And it could be something a little bit more abstract. Like, it could be like, hey, I think there were puzzles in the past where you had like a path of a murderer and where the murder victims were and so on and so forth. So maybe it might not be a character that you control, but it might be a character that does certain things, like, hey, it turns left on 3s and turns right on 4s, etc., you know? And you have to get the character to move to a certain place while solving the puzzle. And it could be another one of those things where you're really solving a regular Sudoku, and this is just an extra clue, and then the character moving is really just a reward. It's just sort of an animation to watch. But that's just my limited imagination. I'm hoping there could be something where... I mean, that's... The holy grail for me is a puzzle that changes throughout the play, right? So it's not just a fixed grid of digits, but you initially need to place certain digits, and then later on you have to place different digits according to what you've learned. Exactly. That's exactly the sort of thing. And this might be a very generic, simple thing. So let's write this down as well. Changing cells, or let's call them. Let's make it exciting. Morphing cells. Cells have different values or clues at different times according to some progression. So, let's do, I can make this a little bit. There we go. Let's see. So, solving parts of the puzzle reveals additional clues that changes the digits. Puzzle passes through several stages. Now, this is something I think certain setters would really be able to handle well. Like, I've seen, for example, setters experiment with having the same cells have the same values, but across different constraints. Like, you know, have the same board, once with arrow sums, once with thermos, and once with killer cage, with the same numbers, the same places, right? So this would be perfect to combine that into a single puzzle where you're placing them. And it could even be as simple as, like, hey, after you've placed them, you move on to, like, this is something part of the puzzle pack concept I have, where you just pass through multiple stages, right, with different puzzles. But, you know, maybe there's a clever way of combining them, right? The same cell has different values over time. So basically, you know, first the cell has a 1, but by putting in the 1, you learn something, and then you realize, okay, now this cell needs to become a 3, etc., and so on. And that could be applying both to just the values of the cell, as well as clues, maybe more than a cell, maybe the clues of a box or whatever, right? Almost like as if the fog mechanic had different clues written on top of the fog than underneath the fog, right? All right, but so far we're still not really tapping into imagination here. We're still kind of talking about things that more or less work in the existing system, right? So we kind of want to do more than that. We want to upgrade, right? Hey there, Dominic. I'm just discussing some concepts for my Sudoku Pad app of different mechanics to introduce and different, more video game-like features to add to the number puzzles for some students to work on. So I hope you're not expecting Bomberman gameplay today, but thanks for stopping by. So, what did we speak about so far? We have Fog of War, which already exists. We have a Marble Run mechanic. We have Breakable Blocks. We have Bomberman mechanics, Minesweeper mechanics, Pick and Place, Morphing Cells. All right. Let's add. I mean, this is on the top front of my mind, but it's not really well fleshed out, right? So let's see. Critters and mobs. So let's just creatures or numbers that actively move about the board to some effect. Now, I don't know what effect that might be, right? Perhaps placing digits will direct the creature in new directions. Perhaps placing digits will direct the creatures in new directions. Or I don't know. This could be kind of, you know, maybe we have to avoid the creatures. I don't know how you would do that, because obviously you're a sort of omnipotent, as a player, you're kind of omnipotent overlooking the board. You don't have a existence or position yourself, right? But I'd like to have a few more examples of what we could do. Yeah. You know, grid-based used to be quite popular back in the day, because it was easier to handle on lower-end hardware. And my puzzle app is very much a grid-based engine, right? So let's see, we have maybe moving creatures. The creatures could do things such as revealing, you know, could be breaking blocks to reveal new clues, or change existing clues, such oh, let's just make this a separate line. Could change existing clues, such as rotating arrows or lines. So imagine there are, you know, bent lines on the board, and as the creatures run past them, they get rotated, and you have to rotate them such that the puzzle is solvable, makes sense, for example. Perhaps, although I'd like to move away from the sort of static expectation of the puzzle being just a existing, you know, like a pre-existing grid of digits that you need to discover, right? So I want the puzzle to become a little bit more dynamic. Like in a game of Bomberman, there is some kind of pre-existing configuration of the upgrades under the blocks and so on, sure, that you can discover. But the ongoing gameplay is changing as the critters move around and as you're blowing up blocks, right? So I'd like to capture some of that. I don't know how. I'm not the designer here. I'm just opening up the options to the designers, to the game setters, right? So similar to the critters and mobs, we also want to have some kind of player character. So a player character that's controlled directly or indirectly. So either, you know, it's controlled by you literally telling it where to go, clicking somewhere, you know, maybe having a special controller tool, you know, maybe cursor keys, maybe you're just selecting, you know, maybe it just always goes towards the selected cell or whatever. Or it could be indirectly controlled, similar to the critters and mobs, so turning at digits, you know, etc. Sort of move towards selection, or turn on certain digits. Let me just see. And then this player character, again, could be doing certain things, you know. Could reveal clues, place digits, etc. Or perhaps need to be guided to a certain cell. So maybe it's being, and you need to guide it to a particular cell, right, to win the game. And to get it there, you have to kind of solve the numeric puzzle underneath, you know. Guide through Labyrinths created by numbers or player or setter. So you maybe have some sort of labyrinth that's defined by the numbers or by existing lines on the board, etc., you know. Yeah, exactly. So we have the castle and the loop stuff and so on and so forth, right? Yeah, for example, right? In fact, Labyrinth is probably like a whole category, right? So have some... so let's see, paths or walls defined explicitly or via digits to control or to control critters or character. So, you know, we can have a whole category of puzzles that deal with the concept of labyrinths, right? Where you either have existing walls or you have some labyrinth that is implicitly defined by the digits. You know, maybe low digits are walls and high digits are paths and so on and so forth. I mean, we have shading puzzles where you often generate caves and paths and so on. Caves, paths, right? But now maybe you can combine it with something else. And then maybe you even have the broken block mechanic where to access, you have to break a block to access a part of the cave, etc., right? And I think there could be a general concept of stages where you first do this, and that already exists, right? A very clever puzzle that's already been implemented, where you first do the shading, then you gotta find all the ones and nines because it's a star battle, and then you fill in the rest of the puzzle, etc., and then take care of other things, right? Yeah, exactly. So loop puzzles, you know, maybe you have a train running on a train track, right? You know, let's make a note. Right. We're still kind of very firmly in the realm of already existing mechanics. And that's okay, because we kind of want to start from where people can imagine how it works. But I want to go beyond that. I want to get to a place which current puzzle setters cannot imagine, because they're thinking in terms of pen and paper puzzles and the grid-based mechanic and so on and so forth, right? I'd like to get to something more animated, right? Think something like Incredible Machine, right? Like imagine a jump pad that pops a number from one place to another. Or there's all those puzzles where you have moving mechanisms, right? And you need to kind of arrange them and rotate them until you create a continuous path for objects in the game, right? So let's capture that as well. Sort of let's call it the Factorio, right? Factorio mechanic, right? Or think even something like Redstone, right? So digits or other what do we call them? What do we call them? Let's see. Represent devices to manipulate or move characters or digits. Imagine rotating features to create paths, or combine digits to create others. For example, you need a machine to combine you get digits fed in from the sides that you need to move around to generate the digits you need, you know. And I think that's almost a separate, but I'll put it in here, right? For example, digits are fed in on belts. So imagine you have digits coming in on conveyor belts that need to be combined and placed, right? So instead of you clicking and saying the digit goes here or there, you need to actually run them through this machine made out of arrows and killer cages and whatever. So you need a 1 and 2 to add up to a 3, and now you can place a 3. Imagine your arrow sum is actually generating the 3, right? You put in a 1 and a 2, and now it pops out a 3. Now you can take that 3, you know, and so on and so forth. In fact, imagine you have an arrow sum. It literally generates the new digit that you need to place. I guess you guys don't see each other because some of you are talking on YouTube and some of you are talking on Twitch. let's see. Mirror mechanism where you need to move a mirror in a way to reflect a light beam or a crystal or something like that. You see, funny you say that because we actually have mirror puzzles, right? We've had puzzles in the past where you had a diagonal line specifically, and elements were mirrored across the line. So we already have like setters thinking in those ways, right? Let's see if we can capture that in general. But I haven't thought of this, so this is actually very good because I don't want to just put things out that I've thought of. Mirror lines. Mirrors. Mirror lines that can reveal or generate new clues or digits. Perhaps mirrors can be placed or moved. So basically, instead of having a given mirror that just tells you, hey, if you figure something on one side, you also know it on the other side, maybe you actually can place the mirrors specifically to create a, hey, I need a even digit there, so let me place a mirror there and mirror that even digit over, and things like that. So I think one of the main features I also need is puzzles where the solution isn't a predefined solution, but where multiple solutions potentially lead to the same outcome, right? So there's more sort of, you know, so it's kind of currently we don't want to have puzzles that have multiple paths that lead to multiple different end solutions. So I'd like to have some sort of final state that isn't the full puzzle, but maybe the final state is like you need a 9 in the center, let's say, right? And there's many different ways of doing that, including placing digits in different places and moving them around, so on and so forth. So let's capture that as well with a feature name. So let's see, how could we call this? Dynamic. I'm just gonna be very vague here. Dynamic puzzle. The final solution, and I don't like putting the word final in front of solution. The solution is not a full board state, but some other, something else, digit in specific location. Oops. So in this case, we might have to kind of place tools and elements to manipulate digits and board state to achieve solution. Board may change multiple times, or cells may change multiple times, as well as clues may move or be moved. So basically, it's not a static board, but it's a dynamic board. Yeah, exactly. The slider puzzles. Yeah, slider puzzles. Now, slider puzzles, again, like I'm very specifically looking for more video game-like mechanics, but at least a slider puzzle is animated and interactive, more so than a pen and pencil puzzle, right? But yeah, like, again, it's more of a rough concept and not something that I have, like, I know the details of, you know? And I wonder what they're actually called. What are they called? I think they're called sliding puzzle, right? Sliding puzzle, yeah. And I'm sure there are digital versions, right? It's funny, though, that these are all mechanical. What if I type in digital sliding puzzle here? The other thing I was thinking of was things like Don't Move and Nobody Explodes, like collection of mini-games, where the mini-games might be multiple small puzzles, right? Like we've had sort of small versions of this, like 6x6x6s and so on and so forth. But it would be cool if it was, like, let's say 6x6 puzzles that are on a cube and you're rotating the cube, that kind of thing, you know? Yeah. You know, again, the details I think need to come from the setters, because I personally don't know how to set puzzles well enough. So sliding puzzles. Either digits, comma, cell. What would you call something that covers the cells? Like fog? just because that's something we're already making. Fog or clues. Clues are moved around to reveal elements beneath or shift. Beneath or reveal elements. To reveal or shift clues or digits. So, and I think there's two ways of going about it, right? One would be to you dragging and shifting and moving things, or you're placing things as they shift, right? I keep thinking also of the movie Cube and Cube, what was it called? The Cube? And then there was the Cube Cubed or whatever. Kind of where these sort of room-sized puzzles were moved around, right? It could also be animated, right? So it could be also, or clues are moved in recognizable patterns, and player needs to wait for specific configuration to place digits. So imagine you have clues moving around the board, right? And I think I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger here. Make it like this. So you have a set of clues that move around the board, and you have to kind of wait for those those clues to align in certain ways to let you place the digit, right? So currently we're placing digits so they globally apply to all clues, right? So you can only place the digits if it doesn't violate any of the given clues. But imagine if you only have very few clues and you can't place any digits unless they match those clues, but most cells don't have any clues matching, right? So imagine you only have like 2 arrows, and those 2 arrows move around, and you have to wait for those arrows to arrange themselves in places so they give you a specific digit that's correct. Now, they might sometimes give you the wrong digit that is correct locally for that current configuration, but not globally. And you might have to change what the digit is, right? Maybe that needs to be a separate item here, because I think that doesn't really fit under the sliding puzzle mechanic. So I'm just going to call this moving clues. And I'm going to capitalize these just to distinguish these as headings. Clue, smaller set of clues move in certain patterns, only allowing digits to be placed. Only allowing, how do I express this in a concise way? Small set of clues moving in certain patterns. Digits can only be placed when they match the clues. Some cells may have multiple valid values, but only one globally correct one. So currently all cells have all 9 valid values, right? But imagine you cannot place a digit at all if the cell doesn't have any clues pointing at it. So maybe a cell can only ever be 1, 3, or 4, depending on where the clues are at any particular time. But only one of those will be correct. And to figure out which one is correct, you have to solve others, right? So there could be some kind of combination like that. Again, this might be very complex to set. But it might actually make for a relatively simplistic puzzle, because you might have very few clues that just move in very specific ways. And it might already be similar to existing things, just adding the time mechanism, right? So I think time and animation is kind of something. In fact, I would like to write a little bit more general things up. And I just noticed my chat wasn't scrolling. Escape the room digital games. Yeah, escape room stuff. Slide entire rows or columns where digits may wrap around. Sliding puzzle. I think I'm going to add that to sliding puzzle, right? Slide whole rows, boxes, or even regions, rows, no, rows, columns, or boxes. Sorry, I didn't see the latest message here. Find correct pattern to slide into the solution state. Yeah, that goes definitely on a sliding puzzle. So I like the idea of now on a higher level. I've already been planning for supporting puzzle hunts, and puzzle hunts currently are often published as just a PDF with a bunch of puzzles, and then sometimes you have to carry a particular digit from one puzzle over to the next and things like that. I definitely want to go more into that. I think there's a whole a lot of potential there, and definitely potentially combine that with animation and with interactivity as well. But I think probably the puzzle hunt stuff or the puzzle pack stuff needs to come first on existing puzzles, and this stuff needs to come, and then maybe they can be combined. I mean, I did a prototype of a rotating cube, right? So there could be multidimensional puzzles and so on. Multidimensional is kind of like, we can already sort of do, and it's not really something I kind of think of under this project. But with animation support and interactive support, where you can switch, like instead of having the 6 puzzles side by side, having them somehow integrated more might be helpful. So let's put this in 3D puzzle, multi-layer or sides of a cube. Puzzle may rotate or shift. Multi-layer. Actually, there's another way. Sides of a cube or connected rooms. It could be puzzles that are connected via corridors. I've seen a puzzle like that using the fog of war mechanic as well. Puzzle may rotate or shift up/down or horizontally and vertically. Clues might interact or be kind of like I'm thinking of sort of transparent layers and stuff, or be shown as semi-transparent overlays. It's a little vague, and it's less on the sort of animation side. 3D or 3D puzzle or multi-dimensional. Because I would even consider multiple puzzles laid out side by side. Imagine a chain of puzzles and things like that as a multi-dimensional puzzles in a way. You mean my concept that I've already created for Sudoku Adventures? Yeah, this was actually the idea before SudokuPad. So this was the original idea for the app that I wanted to build, and SudokuPad was really just my way of prototyping the engine before building Sudoku Adventures or Sudoku Stories. Let me see if I can find it quick. I don't even know. It's probably not even public, right? Is this... Where would that be? Oh, it might be in a collection, actually. My God, I can't believe it's like... SudokuPad was supposed to take 3 months, and then I was supposed to work on this project. And now it's 2 years later. That's how these things sometimes work. Collections? No. Private. Might be a private collection. No. Public collection. Sorry, where is it? No. No. I know that I've done it. Private. Can I see it in by... I don't know what dates this is sorted by. This is not up to date. Maybe because it's a public one after all. No, cell outline drawing, Sudoku scanner. Ah, yeah. So here we go. So this was something like that. I don't know if the audio will come through, but basically it was, you know, the idea was it was a choose your own adventure. And this is, I mean, this is hardly a new, yeah, there's something not working. This might not work any longer. And I just realized my music isn't looping here. Chapter 1. Do any of these still work? I should really have local versions of these. I think they might not work because of the way I'm loading in the resources. All right, let's not go there for now. But it's probably worth writing it down, right? So, choose your own adventure. Multiple puzzles linked by short story bits. And the idea was that the choice of puzzle could literally be things like, hey, do you want the easy or the hard way? So it could be a choice of difficulty, right? But it would be nice to have something like, and maybe this is a separate feature, but it would be nice if you could have like roleplay elements, right? Where you kind of collect objects, for example, right? So if you're going down one path, kind of like things like FTL or any kind of roguelike. And perhaps that's actually worthy of its own. And I don't actually want the ship here. I want the star map. Because that's kind of the roguelike element. But the idea being that after a roguelike star map. Right, the progression map. That's what I want to look at. So you have something like this, right? Or this is even more explicit. And depending on where you go, or things like inscription, things like that. Yeah, it would have to be. I think it would. For now, it would have to be single player, right? So let's see. Okay, let's write that. So choose your own multiple puzzle linked by short story bits. Choices may affect difficulty or types of constraints, etc. So if I do choose your own adventure, it also should have to be puzzle packs, right? Puzzle packs. So we'll do that. That's kind of the primitive one. And I think we're going to start categorizing them because these are things that I got to do anyways for regular puzzles. They're not really... But the idea being with something like Choose Your Own Adventure, you could say, okay, hey, do you want to play more arrow puzzles or more killer cage puzzles, right? And you could have a whole set of puzzles where you kind of play the puzzles you want to play, right? That kind of thing. Effect, difficulty, or types of constraints, etc. Puzzle packs. It's basically like Choose Your Own Adventure, but it's linear, right? Multiple puzzles. Generally branching in nature. Multiple plays required to see all puzzles and endings. Right. Puzzle packs. So linear sequence of puzzles, perhaps with optional. Let me write that down as a second point. Linear sequence of puzzles connected with simple story, or it doesn't even have to be a story, right? Like sometimes the puzzle pack will just have like think of it as the puzzle submissions on the Discord channel where they just say, hey, this is what I was thinking when I was setting this puzzle, right? But it could have some optional puzzles. May have some optional puzzles, right? Like maybe there will be a like, hey, before you want to solve this type of weird new puzzle type, here's a simple 6x6 to learn how the mechanic works, right? E.G. simpler example to learn constraint, right? That kind of thing. Things like that, right? What about switch-based puzzles, like the light switch that counter each other if they're not doing it right? So they need specific pattern, but randomized so the game is not. Well, funny you mentioned that, because one of the first games I've ever built is called Butonia, or was later called Butonia, but it's basically based on Lights Out. And does it not exist? I mean, a friend of mine built a mobile app for it. There is a Wikipedia article. Oh, because it's also the name of a flower. Yeah, that always confuses me. What if I put my name to it? It might exist on itch.io. Oh yeah, because I did a version of it for the low-res game jam. Yeah, so I did a version using my Xenocide Academy. Does that show up on the stream? Yeah, my Xenocide Academy art assets, right? And basically the idea of this game is, it's like Lights Out, right? But the buttons are... And it's broken. Oh, that sucks. Aw. Doesn't work anymore? I'm probably using some JavaScript that is no longer... Failed to execute draw image. You know what? I want to actually fix that. Fix. Yeah. But basically, it's like Lights Out, but instead of all the buttons being the same, they have different shapes. And I'd like to see... There's a newspaper article about it. And that's probably the version that my friend did from mobile. But there is a... yeah, this website doesn't work anymore. This domain name is not there anymore. There must be a version of it. Oh, wait, I might have a local version of it. I just might have it. There we go. Up, down. Up, down was the original version, right? And that should just still work. That should just still work. And basically... Oh, yeah, this is the original OG version. The original one I was actually... The actual original one with this artwork was actually done in Pascal. That's why it's so flat. But basically, you see you have different shapes and they affect the buttons in different ways. And then the question is, okay, how do you get all the buttons down? Okay, ooh, this one worked, right? But on the larger ones, it does get a little tricky because the buttons affect each other in certain ways, right? Like, oh, if I push this one, oh no, it changes everything. Oh, what am I going to do, right? So for example, now this button is back up. Nobody wants that. Can I do this? Yes, but now I do this. This one is back up, right? So there is something... Redfix, okay, say hi to Zeta for me. So I wonder if we could, especially since they are defined just as digits, right? I hadn't thought of that, but... Like, I also like the idea of having two puzzles in one, where you basically solve the puzzle one way first, and then it just switches, and then all the digits turn to buttons, and then you solve the button puzzle afterwards, right? So, kind of, how do I express it? Wait, we've had another one. We've had the puzzle packs, choose your own adventure. What else did we talk? Virtual novel, multiplayer support, puzzling support, something that created all single-player games. Let's see, pattern of sliding to get the puzzle state. Next puzzle gives you more of a story than the next puzzle. All right, roguelike. Yeah, so let's talk about roguelike. But the idea being how, like, I don't want to generate the puzzles, right? So the roguelikeness would be something like, and I think that's a separate mechanic. It basically would have to act on things like inventory or character properties, right? So we need that first, actually. So let's call this RGP, right? RPG. RGP, what? So we have either things like player properties or inventory. Either within a puzzle or across a puzzle pack, certain actions give certain items or stats. And then items or stats affect future gameplay? How? But this is more questions, really. How does this? Yeah, I did a multiplayer. I have a multiplayer. What do you call it? A multiplayer prototype, right? Now my version of multiplayer was really, think Google Docs, right? Think two people co-oping a singular puzzle, right? Let me see if I can find this. It probably should be pretty apparent from the screenshot. Yeah. So, for example, yeah. So basically, two people could share the same interaction, and you would see the other player's cursor and see what they're doing. So it was still just solving a regular puzzle, but it was sort of solving them in co-op mode. Let me see. I mean, the idea is obviously to figure out more sort of new things like video. I mean, specifically what I'm actually looking for is video game style mechanics. So animations, interactivity. Let me see. There must be more co-op stuff here. So I did a couple of demos of that for sure. But oh, there we go. So this one is demo 4. What did demo 3 look like? So this is literally just state syncing, right? So it's basically like replicating what one player does to the other. And I thought this would be great for things like a live stream, you know, something like Mark and Simon playing a puzzle together, or even a whole group playing a very large puzzle together, for example, you know. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's not really a original concept, right? But let's go here for quickly. So how do player stats or items affect gameplay? Can this be done with fixed pre-designed puzzles? So in other words, can you have a fixed puzzle that solves differently according to some external factor, something like an item that was collected or a stat? You know, maybe the player can jump over walls, or maybe move on green cells or something like that. Or maybe a player can only see arrow clues. Perhaps player can only see certain types of clues. You know. So this is roleplay game, right? So roguelike would be a set of puzzles that are set of puzzles. See puzzle pack, or what do we call it? Or choose your own adventure. I think there's a short word for that. Choose your own adventure. Is it just CYOA? Because choose your own adventure. Is this CYOA? Right. So CYOA, C puzzle pack, or CYOA. Set of puzzles that solve differently according to and indent that collected stats or items in prior games. How do we evolve gameplay? And most importantly, how do we design puzzles that solve differently according to external factors? So that's kind of the bigger questions here. Thinking PvP, PvP with a player character. Let's add these in, but later on I'm gonna categorize these, because there's some things that are game mechanics, but things like co-op mode is really more of an app mechanic that doesn't necessarily need, like, I don't want to have to wait for people to specifically design puzzles to use that, especially since it's a very complex thing to do. So ideally that's something that should apply to many different puzzles. So I want to differentiate things that enable categories of puzzles and things that enable different ways of playing existing puzzles, right? But let's do this co-op multiplayer, and versus mode would be very different, I think. See, oh, and I think earlier I made some, yeah, prototypes. So we have prototype here. Prototype. And I think we'll start with the most primitive version here. So 2 or more players collectively solve the same puzzle. Because there's a concept for versus mode, which makes me think of the old Tetris versus mode. Because in that, the clever thing about it was you were playing 2 very independent, different games, right? Like you weren't replicating bricks or whatever, but you could have that one tiny interaction between the 2 sides by shooting, you know, your rows over that affected their gameplay. And it was universal. Like it didn't matter what state they're in, your interaction always worked. So the games didn't need to be synced up, right? So we can, and let's actually reverse this, right? We'll call this multiplayer co-op, right? And now we have a multiplayer versus. And here we go. And if this could be asynchronous, that would be even better. So in other words, if by solving my puzzles and doing certain things during the solve, I can affect your solve, make it harder, whatever, and then send you over basically my puzzle with my embedded action, right? And then you have to solve it, but now something happens according to what I've done. And it could be even just time-based, right? It could be not necessarily have anything to do with my solve path. Or maybe, oh man, I like the idea of a solve path where you have to kind of guess my solve path, where if you don't follow my solve path, something happens. I don't know. Roguelike. I'm gonna add a little marker here. See Egyptian pack. Because I'm not familiar with that, so maybe that's something I can look up at a later stage. Because it would be great if puzzles already exist that kind of exemplify that kind of concept. Yeah, but that's why I want to specifically look at, and I've not been doing a good job of this, but I want to specifically look at things that involve interaction and animation, because these are 2 things that currently none of the existing puzzle systems do. Because they all basically replicate things that you can still do with a pencil and a paper. And nobody, or very few people, solve with pencil and paper. Now, I understand there's lots of Sudoku lovers that say, hey, you know, whiteboard and or pencil and paper. But I want to create something for the sort of the digital generation, right? So maybe also something that's a bit simpler, that appeals to children and so on. For the 9x9 project, we're doing a educational version of the app, right? So I think it's 8-year-olds, I think. So it might make sense to have funny characters that interact with the puzzle, the letters. Maybe instead of letters, you have, you know, different symbols. You have the bunnies and whatever. I don't know. But I want to be ready for that sort of thing, right? Whether exploring a map of puzzles would even be fun. Yeah. I'd like to have to do a puzzle free path for you to move forward. Yeah, like you can choose your own adventure, RPG, puzzle packs, multidimensional puzzles. All of these can interact both. And personally, I would actually go towards co-op more than versus. Like, I'd like to keep things friendly, you know, let's not shoot each other with digits, right? See versus mode in Tetris. Some sync or async mode in async mode, actions of player 1 affect solve of player 2 of same puzzle. So the idea, and this, I've done things similar to this with, we did a game at a game studio prior where you basically, it was one of those games where you shoot, like you have a slingshot and you have to shoot a character across the terrain and you have to get as far as possible, right? And the idea was then basically once you're done, you challenged a friend. And it was all asynchronous, so it just generated a link with your time basically embedded, and then the other player basically clicked on that link and played a game against you, right? And then they created a link, they could send it back to you and so on. So it was very asynchronous, and it would fit very much into the mechanic of how we're passing links back and forth, right? The question again is, how do we affect the game? Because right now all puzzles solve the same way, right? How does a puzzle? But I mean, and this could be as simple as Yeah, so the simplest version of this is just a time challenge, right? Like, this could be as simple as I solve the puzzle, it embeds my name and timing, and I send you the link, and then now it has my time, and it says, hey, beat Sven's time, right? That kind of thing. And let's not limit it to 2, right? This could be a chain. It could just get passed forward, right? In sync mode, certain actions affect other puzzle to make it harder. And one of the issues I have is, how do you make it harder? Like, you know, somebody mentioned earlier removing or adding givens, right? I don't like that, actually, because you can look at it, right, and you see all the givens, and if somebody removes a given, you're not suddenly going to forget what it was, right? So it has to be more like how, like, ideally, again, we're looking at dynamic puzzles, right? Puzzles that have multiple combinations of digits that all lead to the same solve, where the advantages and disadvantages affect how easy it is to get to that ending, right? So, for example, if I think of... So, for example, think of certain puzzles where you have to do shading first, and often the solve really is the shading, and then the digits just sort of fall in place. So the digits don't really matter, right? And the shading is much less complex than the digits, right? It's a less specific configuration. So imagine if the solution of the puzzle is not the digits, but some kind of shading or some kind of these 3 digits or whatever, and how you get to them doesn't matter. And you don't have to solve all of the digits. Like, the moment you get those 3 digits, all of the other digits fill in, or something like that, right? And now you could have a puzzle where you could easily manipulate how easy and how hard it is to get to those digits, you know? And ideally, not just by adding or removing clues, but changing them in some way, rotating them, changing them from killer cages to arrows or whatever, right? I can affect other puzzle to make it harder while both players solve. And ideally, in this mode, you would see the other side as well, the other solver. So it would be interesting, how do you... And this might be a completely separate thing, but how do you design a puzzle where seeing a second player solve does not invalidate your own? In other words, could you have a puzzle where if I have the puzzle twice on the screen, and you're working on one, I'm working on the other copy of the same puzzle, seeing what you put in doesn't affect my own solve? So, in other words, we're back to maybe critters moving around the board. So what digits are part of the puzzle doesn't matter, because the digits don't matter. Knowing where the digits go, minor point, right? The main point is using the digits to navigate the labyrinth or whatever. And now I have another idea. Thinking about it this way, how about multi-board puzzles? So imagine you have a screen with 3 puzzles on the board, and I'm trying to think of TL draw, I think. I need a quick sketch-a-rooney here. So imagine you have 2 boards, right? You have player 1 and you have player 2, right? And then you have a 3rd board, right? And these are simple, I don't know, simple puzzles. And this is a bigger puzzle, right? And now imagine you have a critter. Let's call him a Pac-Man or something, right? And your puzzle is actually more of a control pad, right? So imagine, I don't know, imagine you have like an arrow. And by putting a 1 here, it makes the critter go upwards, etc., right? I don't know, something like that. Imagine you're using the puzzles, so you're removing and adding digits all the time on your sort of sub-puzzle, but maybe you have to still comply with certain rules to move the critter around the main board, which then affects where digits go and so on and so forth, right? And you, let's say, navigate the critter to the place where you want to place a digit, right? And then you say, oh, the critter is where I put a 9 here, now the critter puts down the 9, right? Things like that. So, like, the idea being that you have control puzzles and a game puzzle, right? And you kind of control the game puzzle. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm gonna write down. I'm just gonna note it down. Separate game and control puzzle boards. Player use control board to affect game board. Game board is what needs to be solved. Interaction might be via character or critter or other mechanic. So in other words, how you're interacting between the control board and the game board, it could be either, you know, by moving a critter around the game board, etc., and so forth and so forth. I don't actually know how to embed that here. Control board may be as simple as a joy pad, or could be a small Sudoku, a small puzzle of its own. Right. That's going to take a little bit of imagination, I think. All right, let's see. 1 second. So Nye Dominic on Twitch is saying, it's hard to think, like have to do a puzzle to free a path for you to move forward. Okay, so this is a very common mechanic, I think, in puzzle games where one player controls the environment and the other player controls a character, that kind of thing. So that's definitely cool. Torpedo game board. Let's see. Torpedo. Now, the thing is, I don't actually want to replicate board games because they're the opposite of video games, right? They're generally not... Okay, so that looks a bit like battleships, right? So this could also be used for battleships, right? Could be used for multiplayer battleships. And I'd love to extend the engine to a point where you can implement all sorts of dynamic grid-based games, right? Dynamic grid-based games. Let's just throw it up there and see what happens. Yeah, so the other thing I was thinking, what is it called? The box pushing puzzle game? Box pushing puzzle. It's like a Japanese name where you push. So Sokoban, right? Is it Sokoban? Sokoban, yes. Let's put that down there, right? Sokoban. Push boxes or books. Push digits or elements with a character or critters or other mechanic. I mean, there could also be another mechanic, right? It could be literally like by placing digits and so on. And it could just be, you know, in general there, and I think we'll do a section of sort of general higher level mechanic. It could be as simple as revealing clues or placing digits, you know, or it could be something as simple as a multi-level puzzle where you first solve a Sokoban puzzle that then reveals your, you know, your final puzzle, etc., right? Reveal clues or digits, or reveal or place or move clues or digits. Could be a separate phase before or after solving a digit puzzle. All right, let's see. Alithana said, multiplayer exploring map of puzzle would be fun. Yeah. So versus solve the puzzle to do an action where it puts a roadblock on other players. It's like you two talk to each other even though you're in different chat rooms, and I don't think you see each other. I need to do an overlay with the chat, I think. Can you get through a puzzle maze first? Maybe adding roadblocks, important strategy co-op where main puzzle has sub-puzzles or one or more players can divide or conquer. This board looks like a torpedo game board. Oh yeah, it's called Battleships. Yeah. All right. before I start going to a different phase where I want to look at sort of higher level concepts and kind of categorizations and so on, I want to come up with something more dynamic. I want to have one more super dynamic example and one super interactive example, right? So the interactive example could be something as simple as placing buttons or triggers or something on the board, or you need to click things, or a timing thing, etc. Timing is actually more on the dynamic side, right? And dynamic is just changing things, ideally in an animated fashion, right? Things changing over time, like rotating clues, moving clues even, right? Maybe line clues that cycle through different types of lines, you know, things like that. Now, how that interacts with a static solution is an interesting question. Like, does it have to have a dynamic solution? Can you change clues without changing the underlying solution? I don't know, right? I mean, I keep thinking of things like Donkey Kong, right? Where you're throwing barrels and you're jumping down. Like, where you could almost overlay that on top of something else, right? And box pushing puzzle, let's go back to our previous search, which I think was dynamic grid based games. Now, these are all very modern. I think going low level, there's chess mechanics. There's a whole thing about chess mechanics as well. Tomb Doku. Place digits to hit mobs. Oh dear. I mean, if a designer could come up with that. Also game of life type stuff. Landscape where the digits placed then could create something. I don't know, terrain. I mean, skyscraper, right? Like an animated version of skyscraper. That's the thing. We have like glimpses of that in the existing rule sets. Things like skyscrapers and sandwich Sudoku and things like that. I mean, there's definitely something with pathing and lines and the whole castle thing. I mean, maybe like tower defense, you know? Maybe there's something there, right? Because tower defense has that, it's active, it's dynamic, but it's also kind of static, right? It's like where the things are is kind of static. Like in tower defense, for example, the map doesn't change. And the path of the critters doesn't change generally. So I'm just going to throw that in there. I think that's maybe something that could be done, right? So digits are defensive elements. Critters move along paths. And it would be interesting. Like, I'd love a concept where you have to deliberately put the wrong digits into certain places because that serves the dynamic aspect of the game at that moment. So imagine, a 1 goes here, but you don't need a 1. You need a 9 because you got to hit those guys before they defeat you, So you're going to keep a 9 there, which is wrong. And then you try to change it to the right digit when it makes sense, right? And I think there could also be some sort of mechanic where not just one digit, but a group of digits. Like if you have 3, 2, 1 in a certain shape, that does something, right? So placing digits relative to each other in certain ways might make sense, right? Potentially insert wrong digits temporarily to serve dynamic gameplay. I think gameplay... Is gameplay 1 word or 2 words in English? Gameplay. It is 1 word. All right. I think I always wrote it as 2. There we go. With dynamic gameplay, critters move along paths towards the target. These are defensive elements that affect critters. I wonder if critters or creeps is more relevant. All right, so this would be the dynamic example, and let's do one more interactive example. So, I mean, we have things like Minesweeper and so on, but it could be something... what could it be? I'd like something that requires you to click something on the board. But of course, it can't just be a dumb thing, because then you can just click everything, right? So I don't know if it's something that changes, or... I mean, the drag and drop is already fairly... falls very squarely into that category, right? Hmm. 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 Any ideas, Alithana, since you haven't gone off to Zed's stream yet? Who left before Zed? Ratfinks did. Let's think. We need some kind of interactive grid-based puzzle. Dynamic. It's just grid-based. Ah, yeah, there's also all sorts of chess things, right? So we've had sort of chess-related stuff in Sudoku for a long time, but it's never been, you know, actual moves and so on. And recently there was a chess game where it was a position in the board that needed to be valid, right? So it needed to take into consideration how the pieces were threatening each other. So, 1 second. So maybe there could be something where the pieces, where the digits represent chess pieces, and they actually move. They actually get maneuvered or taken. Or I don't know. It's always like, what do you do once the board state has changed? The whole puzzle or the whole game isn't based around that. But maybe it could be, right? So this is Minesweeper, I suppose. Because I'm also thinking of stuff like sort of bomb defusal games or escape room type stuff, you know, like the whole keep talking, nobody explodes. So I don't know. Let me think. What shall I call it? Interact. Super generic. Bomb diffuser. Like how does that integrate with the numbers and digits? I don't know, right? Escape room. Press button or toggle wheel digit. I mean, or spin wheel. And specifically in relation to, I mean, it could also be simply things like switch lights, right? So imagine you have lights that have light beams, and depending if something is illuminated or not, different different clue shows, right? For example, that could be interesting, right? So you have like a dual mode puzzle. Rubik's Cube. Interesting. Because Rubik's Cube, you have the colors, and you could replace the colors with the colors with numbers, right? I mean, I'm just gonna put this down like for the students to kind of ponder over. I mean, it could also be what were they called? Things like Bejeweled, Connect 3, not Connect 3. Connect colors, jewels. I mean, Bejeweled is just one of those. Connect jewels, connect colors, game concept. What is it called? Like the underlying color box? I mean, I'm just getting the games themselves, right? Wikipedia. Connect 4. It's not really Connect 4, right? Ah, it's match 3, right? Match 3. Yeah. So we can have Rubik's Cube, match 3. Tile matching. I mean, these are technically all separate ideas, right? I think I'm actually going to do this, right? They're all really basically potential. And I'm just going to put these down like that. I think this this is like a separate game idea. This is more like more generic. Like these all need details, right? But if I put them up in the wiki, maybe the students can poke at these some more. We have tile matching. We have connect 4 somehow, right? And of course we have Tetris elements, right? So we have existing, you know, polynomial polynomio. Is it polynomio? My brain is just short circuiting right now. Polynomio. Is that Tetris? Tetromino. 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 Right. I'm just gonna write this down as Tetris. And what was the other one that we have had examples of? Chess. Mechanics. I'm gonna put the word in there just to imply these are more generic. So these are just like rough concepts, right? Way of moving elements. Here's a good type. So now I'm gonna put in some higher level concepts, right? So high level concepts. So like one main one, for example, that came up a couple of times is multiple phases. Solve one kind of puzzle to reveal another. Could be Sudoku first or second. Examples could be things like shading and then Sudoku, or, and I'm just gonna put a few here, shading then Sudoku, or Sudoku, and then it gets converted to, let's say, the numbers become a terrain or whatever, right? I don't know, tower defense or whatever, right? So it could be that solving the Sudoku gives you the playbook. The problem with that is really then it's almost like a reward, right? It's like those puzzles where you uncover a picture. You're just really solving the Sudoku. You're not playing a different game because of the Sudoku. So I'm actually not gonna put in more here. Sudoku, or like solve one kind of puzzle to reveal another. For like shading to Sudoku. Yeah, we don't even need to write anything else. And it could be more than 2 phases as well, right? It could be, like you said, it could be a Rubik's Cube and then Sudoku, or it could be Star Battle and then whatever, right? Or Sudoku and then Minesweeper, or I don't know, right? So that's kind of a high-level concept. So what were the other ones that we talked about? So we could have simple puzzle, comma, animated reward. It could be like marble run, stuff like that, right? So we have a very simple puzzle, nothing, no special magic rule set, but then just like a nice little reward, right? Could it be interactive? Perhaps even interactive reward. You know, maybe you can play with a kitten or something. I don't know. One second, my nose is itching. Right, I should have a mute button for my camera as well, not just for the microphone. All right, let's see. What else can we categorize these things in? We mentioned, yes. Let's make a category for multiple puzzles, right? So we have multiple phases in one puzzle, which is a bit different, right? But then we have something outside of the puzzle, right? So we have multiple puzzles connected by external factors. And I'm guessing I can't just capitalize all of these because these are phrases and it doesn't make sense. Sudoku. Let's because I'm trying to put in my sort of my brand name for this stuff, but it should be, you know, things like puzzle packs. And I think Choose Your Own Adventure and puzzle packs are very, like, in terms of role, like multiple puzzles on a map that you can move between, you know, they're kind of the same thing. And it's mostly those two, really. So that's kind of a high-level concept. Then we do have, in existence puzzles, we have that sort of idea of dual purpose for digits, right? So, for example, sandwich crusts 1 and 9, right? So we kind of have, I don't know how to express that, but that's kind of the bread and butter currently of, you know, like, hey, combine Sudoku with Star Battle. Okay, the stars are 1s or 9s or whatever, right? So let me think, what else, if I can collect a few more additional things to do. Yeah, maybe the movable element, right? So like we have a layer on top of the puzzle itself, right? So how about puzzle as environment? So moving critters or characters. So where the puzzle itself represents an environment in which something else operates, right? Puzzles environment, characters, labyrinths, or game maps for tower defense, right? So there's kind of the idea that the solved puzzle represents something, such as a background or environment, right? A marble run, right? Tower defense, marble run, CC, right? That's kind of the idea. But it's kind of close to this, but it could be, you know, tower defense. You could play a whole game of tower defense, right? But it could also be before and after, right? Like the idea is, the transition is the tricky part, right? How do we transition from a tower defense game where the result, where the game evolves, changes over time, and that brings you towards solving the puzzle? I don't know exactly, right? Like it feels like it's a separate thing. Now, I'm not even averse to that. Like it doesn't necessarily have to become a number puzzle in the end, you know? But it would be nice if it's connecting things a little bit, right? Trying to think what else we have in terms of, I mean, there's color puzzles, of course. You know, we could have just a very simple thing that's, you know, where instead of solving with digits, we're solving with colors and so on, you know. And in fact, did I put lights out as a higher level mechanic? I probably didn't. Tile matching, connect for lights out. And I think, again, this is going to be a part of the wiki, which is going to be on GitHub. I'm going to post it at the end of the stream. And in fact, maybe, depending what time it is, I might actually start putting up the main categories on the wiki as well. So besides the high-level concepts, I also want to talk about kind of the more sort of details, what I expect of each feature, right? So kind of in terms of, hey, it needs to have specifically puzzles designed for it. And this is going to be difficult because obviously the feature won't exist, right? So how do we design puzzles for it? So it's kind of like, hey, theater of mind, imagine blah, blah, blah. It could be, hey, the puzzle isn't playable, right? You just, here's what it would look like, right? You know, here's 3 drawings of the stages of the game, etc. Or here's like, I built a JavaScript interactive demo of what it might look like, etc., right? So let me write that down a little. It's going to be a little bit different because this is like instructions for the students of how to work and look at this, right? So how to, I don't even know how to label this. So how to design a feature. A new feature. Right? So we need example puzzles, right? Sample puzzles. Either with imagined rules or how do I explain this? Either with imagined rules. That's not even clear to me, right? What I mean is where I have to imagine how the rules would work, right? With either via theater of mind, which I'm not sure if that everybody would be familiar with this term, right? Either via theater of mind or laid or gameplay laid out with descriptions and screenshots and diagrams. And yeah. So we want sample puzzles. And this is probably not the first thing, but we definitely need them, right? A detailed description of how a concrete implementation might work. And at the end, notes on how this may be expanded and generalized. So because the highest sort of value will be features that can do more than one specific thing, right? That can be used as a part of a design of multiple different kinds of puzzle, right? Kind of like arrow sums can just be used. You can make an arrow sum puzzle, right? But you can also combine it with other constraints and so on and so forth. The description of how concrete implementation might work. Notes on how this might be expanded, generalized. Notes on potential conflicts and issues, and on how conflicts and issues, and on how feature may be taught to player. Right, that's kind of important. So how does the player know how the feature works, you know? Like, killer cage sums, you can usually generally explain with one sentence, you know? Digits in cages sum to the number in the corner. But how do you explain, especially a feature that's not visible right now? You might need a tutorial, you know? It might not be possible to explain the whole feature. You know, tower defense, you can't explain all the rules of a complex tower defense game in a piece of rule text, right? Let's see. Get the description of how concrete implementation works. Why feature is enjoyable, and so because we are also targeting setters, we're not just targeting solvers, right? If the feature, like, oh, plays Doom, right? Everybody loves Doom. But if puzzle setters can't utilize the feature and nobody generates things for it, then it's not that useful. And now that I just said it, I'm also thinking of the old Labyrinth type games, the 3D Labyrinth type stuff, where the Labyrinth itself is like raycast and it's on a grid. Man, I'd love to... I wish there could be something like, you know, where the game board turns into a Labyrinth. 3D Labyrinth. So it would be cool if you could go into first-person mode. Solved or partially solved puzzle may be reversed in first person as Labyrinth. Why? To what end? Like, why would you want to traverse it, right? What's the point of it? But again, game designers. Why feature is enjoyable and setters would want to use it. So we kind of need to know. We need to have a good idea that that multiple people will generate such a puzzle, right? I've actually made a push Sudoku. Sorry, I did not see your message. I think Restream, your name has Chinese characters in it. I think Restream did not manage to transfer that chat message. And I would not know how to pronounce your name. Let me see if I can translate it. Sorry about that. Traveler. All right, Traveler. You've actually managed a push Sudoku, which is uniquely solvable, so that works. Push Sudoku, I guess you're talking about the Shokoban type situation. I would love to see what that might look like. Push Sudoku. Push Sudoku Battle Indonesia. I don't know what a push Sudoku would look like. But I'm guessing this is just regular Sudoku, and the push is just referring to a kind of way of playing. Maybe a type of competition. Push Sudoku, custom puzzles. Oh, these are Git commands. All right. Commit Sudoku. Yeah, that's related to push Sudoku. All right, that doesn't take me anywhere useful. Sorry, I didn't see your message earlier. I can't even see when you posted it because there's no timestamps, which is very annoying. Maybe I can find it somewhere else. One sec. Here we go. Nope, no timestamps here either. Sorry about that, Traveler. Push Sudoku. I'd love to see a link to that. Let me see if I can respond to you. I don't even know. Can I? Go to channel, put using timeout. No. Can I? I don't even know how I can at somebody. If you can get me a link on any of the Discords that I'm on, that would be really, really nice. All right, so we need to see sample puzzles. I gotta work that out in a bit more detail. You know, ideally have some sort of spreadsheet. You know, then we'll have stages, right? So how to test feature concepts. So firstly, we have theater of mind. And probably lower than that, we have just describe, draw annotated screen shots. So that's the lowest level, right? Theater of mind, imagine rules, etc. So this might work for quite a few kinds of rules, and that's how most new rules are actually being designed, right? So we can have simple functional prototype, you know, in JavaScript on CodePen APC. So this could be, you know, built in JavaScript, put together somewhere on CodePen, and so on and so forth. Or we can create a rough alpha implementation on SudokuPad. And that comes actually after we could do something like implementation via extension or user script. And that doesn't have to be on SudokuPad, right? Rough implementation on SudokuPad, and then 6 we'll have final beta implementation on SudokuPad. I think it's time to start putting these a little bit into the wiki so they don't get lost. And I think I gotta keep my eyes on the YouTube chat, because I did not know that Restream loses or doesn't show chat messages from certain kind of character groups. In fact, can I put this down here? Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I'm gonna move my chat down here next to my Discord chat, and hopefully it will. Oh, it does not show me everything, but this might be enough. All right, so let's get started on putting this into the wiki. So I've started a wiki here for partially for the 9x9 folks, but in general to collect information about, you know, the tools landscape in the pencil puzzle community, and I've just given it a quick start of things I'm personally familiar with, which is far from everything, right? But I'm gonna start putting these on here, and I think we're gonna put this as a subsection of SudokuPad. So we're gonna edit this, and we're gonna try to remember how this works, because I haven't really used this wiki a lot, and last time I looked everything up, and now I don't remember. So how do we link to a page? I think we have to create the page first, right? So let's do a new page. And we're gonna call it new feature proposals. And that's kind of generic, and later on these might go in a separate page once, if this page starts getting all sorts of feature proposals on there, like, hey, I want more colors and the usual stuff, right? All right, so we are going to kind of transpose some of these things here, and hopefully do a lot of spell checking in the meantime, right? So, or design is probably the wrong word, right? Propose is probably better. So how to propose a new feature, and this will be in H2. And then under this, we're gonna put an unordered list of items, right? And I think we can just more or less copy these over. And this can go like this. The description of how a concrete implementation might work. And maybe this could be second. You got to know what the feature is before we can talk about it. And here we're gonna do this. Actually, I could have just put line breaks on. Sample puzzles. 3 to 5 sample puzzles. Yeah, let's just say sample puzzles. Yeah, 3 to 5. Either way, theater of mind or gameplay laid out with descriptions and diagrams. All right, theater of mind or laid out via descriptions and diagrams, right? Notes on how this might maybe expanded and generalized. Generalized to combine with other features and puzzle types. So we don't want something that's just on its own and doesn't actually connect with anything, right? Notes on potential conflicts and issues and how feature may be taught to player. I feel like this is so important, how this should be separately. So how can this feature be taught to new players? And yeah, notes is superfluous. How can this be expanded and generalized to combine with other features? And Combined with other features, puzzle types. What are potential conflicts and issues? All right. And I'm gonna put this in here like this and see if I can just bring this over like that. And just save this page for now. Sorry if this is a bit small. All right, so new feature proposals. We should be able to link this similar to these guys, right? So I'll just do this. If I do this and say new feature proposals like that. And we might move this down here for now. I don't know if this should be at the top or at the bottom. It almost feels like this should be a link and a caption. Can I make it both? Can it be a link and a... Can be. All right. Sweet. All right. So it makes sense now. I don't know if I should just list them all or if I should turn them into a... right now, I think maybe I'll just bring them all in. Sort of cut and paste style quickly. And then I can break them down a little bit. Ah, wait, we have these concepts first, right? So he's like, all right, let's do that step by step first. So high level concepts. I think we can just do this at caption 3, caption 3, caption 3, caption 3. And we can probably just do this. Perhaps an interactive reward. Harbor run, etc. I don't know if I should make these just like this for now. Just so I don't have to worry about formatting these as some kind of actual text. Multiple phases, single puzzle element. I wonder if these should just be a list instead of sub. Because then we'll add a lot of kind of captions here. All right, we have these high-level concepts, and then rough ideas, rough feature ideas, like that. And I think they might they become a list? Yes. They already are a list like this. Can I spell check these? Let me go back in here. Let me create a blank Google Doc and just paste it in there quickly to put a spell check on it because, man. Can I? I've seen this without pagination. So there should be a way of have it without paging. Google Docs single page mode. There's some sort of single page mode, right? Page setup, pageless. This is under file. Page setup, pageless. Okay. Multiplayer. Challenge. Okay, I think I have to fix them in here. Can I make this bigger? Yes. Multiplayer is probably single word. All right, let's start from the top. Generalized. That's probably just British versus UK. I don't really know which I should fix my settings and just be on one. Like this probably wants a C there, right? Yeah. Defense. Yeah, maybe it's better if I do it in American English, right? Otherwise I'm gonna hurt my brain. Theater. All right. What else we got? Neighbors. I don't think I can just fix it there because I don't think I can just cut and paste it back. Drag and drop. Pick and place. That's a weird suggestion, but yeah, I think pick and place. Drag and drop. And my capitalization is atrocious here, but whatever. Reveals. Oh. Additional. Watch me. Oh, here we have could be breaking blocks. We have spell check here suddenly. Achieve. Recognizable. Difficulty. Player. Certain. Types. That. Plays. Multiplayer. Challenge. Multiboard. So multiboard is 2 words, but multiplayer is 1 word. That's interesting. I wonder why. Rubik's. Alright, let's try this again. Let's see what the spell check says now. Additional. Morphing cells. Morphing cells. Additional. Okay. And I think perhaps the player. This is under RPG. Perhaps the player. Selected stats. This should be here. Perhaps the player. Multiplayer versus. Alright, I think that's all of it. Oh, generalized. Now it wants to go back because we've changed. Because we were in American spelling now. Alright, that's it. I'm tempted to add SudokuPad in here. SudokuPad, or maybe just keep it generic because, you know, maybe it's not SudokuPad. Maybe somebody else will implement these. So, new puzzle feature proposals. All right. So these are a whole bunch of ideas. So we want to narrow these down. So probably what I'll need to do now is, and maybe I can start on that now, kind of design a spreadsheet. So we'll do sheets.google.com, right? We'll design a spreadsheet, basically how to fill, what kind of basic information we need to have filled in for these, right? So, you know, feature. So we have to have some basic labels here. So make do these. Well, this row definitely want to get a bit of space, right? Let's see how kind of we want a description. And I don't know if we want to break things down into like concepts and things like that, right? So puzzle fog, description, cells covered. Initially, cells are covered in fog of war, and are revealed as nearby digits are filled in. So this could be kind of a way of fog of war could be the one that I'll use as a demo, right, of how it should be designed, how the puzzle should be defined, right? So we want to freeze one row. Now we probably want to make this a bit deeper, and I'm gonna get rid of most of these rows because we don't actually want that many features to be put in here. Rows. So now we can make these all higher. So at least like 2 rows, and then we can make these all be, I think we all want these to be up and left, and we want to wrap them. And then this can be like this. Now we can make them bigger still. And then we'll fix the filled in. Boom, right. And then we can fix this up afterwards like this. So, Fog of War status implemented. So status could be just proposal, etc., etc. And then we probably want to have some samples. And I do remember I have a list of Fog of War URLs somewhere here in one of these untitled places. How long ago was this? I don't. Ooh. Yeah, should be on stream. What was this? Oh, I don't even remember. No. Don't close. Don't close these. I don't have any saves on these. I have to figure out what these are. This was some sort of debugging, I think. I think I can close this now, right? I don't remember. Add solution. I'm gonna close this one. And this was Penpa imports. I gotta see if I still need these. I don't remember what this was. I don't remember what this was. I think I was testing something about screenshots. This could be potentially bad to have that on stream anyways. Fog of War, here we go. Holy crap. All right. So let's have a look at something like this. And I think I have... Yeah, so I have some with shortened URLs. So I can use these as examples, for example. Examples, for example, right? So we'll do sample 1. And we'll have something like this. Sample 2. Boom. Sample 3. Sample 4. Sample 5. Right. And then these should not go into the next lines. And they should be quite short. Boom. Don't want to spend too much space on these, right? What else did we say we needed? We had our samples. Okay. So description. Put one column to the left. Why? Fun. New constraint type. Easy to set and understand. Can make easier puzzles by guiding player along solve path. Right? So part of why it's good is because sometimes it can just guide the player along the path, and it makes it potentially easier, right? All right, what else do we have? How can this feature be taught to new players? How do we express that? Why? How? Relatively simple concept to describe in rules text. I think that's fair. Boom. Status probably needs to be near the front. Feature name. Feature. Status implemented. All right. Sample plus what are potential conflicts? Potential conflicts. Potential issues. And we probably don't need this to all to be that big. We probably can do this and this. right? Potential issues. Yeah, that probably needs to be before the samples. And both of these probably need to be a certain kind of width, like that. Like that. Potential issues. Puzzles will be spoiled in non-supporting apps. Simple misclicks. Simple misclicks can also spoil puzzle. What other issues do we have? Spoilage, right? Potential conflicts and issues. Puzzle will be spoiled, non-supporting apps, spoil puzzle. And I think there's an issue generally that if the solve path is missed, like generally there aren't alternate solve paths, right? Solve path more important than usual. I think that's kind of, you know, I think that's fair. So let's see where we're at. Definitely don't need all of these columns. Oh, how many columns are there? I don't need that many. All right, double A. Just get rid of some of these here. Delete columns, right? Notes. Additional. Just notes. Notes is fine. We'll make that big. And these we're making them small. Maybe later on we'll use them for like checkboxes and stuff like this. And I think we can also make these a little bit like that. And then I think that makes sense. Maybe make these a little wider. That. Boom. Right. And then this column would probably just do this. And we'll probably actually do this. Like that. And yeah. And probably on this one as well. That. I'm wondering if the links should just be in one cell. So I could just do this, right? Oh, nope, nope. Go here. Oh, no. Why? Roll enter. I'm trying shift enter. Oh, alt enter. Yes. But if I do this, is this a new link? If I select this, I do this. Yeah, I don't think I can do that. I think you can only have the whole cell be one link. Right. If I go here and do this. Yeah, I don't think I can have multiple links in one cell. All right. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I wonder if there's Google Sheets multiple links in one cell. I don't think you can have like formatted text like that. Choose, let's insert multiple hyperlinks into a cell without using text box. Select the section you want to link. In this case, select the menu. Oh. So maybe I can do this and do this, right? No. Come on, wait. So copy this, right? Go in here. Alt enter. Add this. Do this. Insert. Insert. Link. Boom. Apply. And if I go here, we'll see. Control K. Apply. I still think that's just one link. Oh. Google Sheets. Unlike Excel, Google Sheets, let's see. Unlike Excel, by default, like only one. Okay. Also Google Sheets. Insert link. So if I have to do this in here. And then if I go here and select this, and I click this, select this, apply. It doesn't seem to like it. Like if I do this and say no link on that, yeah, it doesn't seem to work. And our sales number. You want. Unlike Excel, Google Sheets lets you insert multiple hyperlinks into a cell without using text boxes. Select you want to link, click insert link. So if I do this, right, unlink it all, oops, then I select this part and click on this, do this and apply. Okay, and then I go back in here, select this part, Control K, paste, apply. Now I can go in here, delete these, and now, and it'll open Luminous Maximus, and if I go in here again and I click this one, it will open Lost by Dathan. All right, so we can do multiple sum. A little bit of, I wonder if it's almost not worth it because it's difficult to do and people might not do it when it's difficult to do. Yeah. So, samples. But, you know, less space, etc., etc. So that might be worthwhile. Probably don't want to make that super long, right? And then we probably can afford to make this another line or two taller. And use that. And then we probably want to have another row above this in the for the future, where we can add some descriptions and stuff like that. All right. Almost tempted to center these. I don't know, it looks weird like that. Whoop. There we go. All right, I think that is a good start. And that's something I can, I think, pass to the students. Can I guess, if I make... I'm just trying to think if it's okay to make this publicly editable. I guess. So I can do this like that. Right? And then I can do this. And we can go in here. We can do this. And then we'll do high-level features, rough feature ideas, and high-level concepts, rough feature ideas. And here we go is requests feature suggestions. And then we'll just do it like this. Is there a short link version? Just as that. Let's see, if I remove this and then do and we'll just take the name of the spreadsheet and do this Google Sheets. Just so people, when they arrive there, they realize they probably need a Google account, etc. Let's see how that looks. Feature suggestions. Click on that. Cool. And then in the future, I can pep this up a little bit. I think I actually want to move this higher up. I think that's something that people are going to use a lot, while the other stuff less so. So we can do this. Proposals. See you guys later. All right. And I think that's it for the stream. I think I'm quite happy with this. These probably need a bunch of sorting. I'd like to kind of categorize them a little bit. Maybe kind of label them kind of by progress. Maybe each of them should be in a little box with some details or whatever. Maybe in the future they'll even get their own pages, you know. And maybe there's a way of kind of managing them a little bit. I'm starting to, I'm thinking the line breaks are handled badly here. Like these, the second line, I think this line break doesn't seem to be happening on some of them. Prototype, like there's no line break here. So I'm guessing they'd have to be sub points. So basically we'll have to do, oh, how does that work? I go again. All right, so double. Ugh. Can I? One sec. Let me go back into here. Right, and we'll go all these tabs, and I think we can just ignore all the stuff above it. So we can just ignore all of this for now, and we'll replace all of this. Oop. With asterisks like that. Oh. No. Come on. Just do them. All right. Let's replace all of them. And now all the tabs. All of these we can replace with double asterisk like that. I think. Let's make a backup. Nope. Copy that. And bring it in here, I think. No. No. Wait, how did I end up with double asterisks when there wasn't a tab? That doesn't make any sense. Place all. Why does it only do one when I say replace all? Selection. Place all. Okay, I think that looks okay. Like that. I think. I don't actually like the double thing. I'd like it to be just indented. Block quote. Mode markdown. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Let's see. GitHub, wiki, formatting, list, indented sub items. Because right now it just creates a double thing, which just looks weird. So can I do? I don't really want to do a block quote here. I want to do a nested list. Links section list, relative links lists. So list, indented list. So just tab, okay. So I can replace... Ooh. First of all, let's find all the tabs. So now there shouldn't be any more. Okay. So let's replace this with... Oop. So we're going to take that, put that there. But instead of having that asterisk, we just have a tab. So to create a nested list using the web editor, GitHub text editor, use mouse-space font user, you can align your list visually. Type space characters and your nested list item lies directly below the first character of the text in the item below. Web-based editor, you can indent or dedent with one more lines of text by first highlighting desired lines and adding, and then using tab or shift tab respectively. Okay. So replace all. So maybe this is correct now. Let's edit this again. Oh, and I went super tiny here. What an exciting live stream today. But communication is key. So spending a little bit of extra time to get this right, I believe, is worth it. And it's instructional. Alright, Marble Run, Bomberman, Minesweeper, Pick and Place. So I probably need to fiddle with them a little bit in terms of priority. So Pick and Place, I think, should be set like super high priority. So I can potentially put that up here. So let's add a column like this. Column to the right. You know, value. High. Boom. Right? We probably want to do center on these guys. So, for example, pick and place. Status concept, value high. Pick, drag, and drop. Given configurations of cells or constraints onto board, may also be... So it's not just a given constraint, but it could also be pre-filled, right? Different configuration of cells, constraints of the board. Whoops. Start to board. Parts, or what did we call them? Sub something something. Subgrids. These subgrids may also could also be how do I, what's the possessive pronoun for fill-inable? Could also be interactive and may be filled in prior to placing. Why? Can be used for several existing puzzle types, such as battleships and others. Will make those types of puzzles easier. All right. How? How to teach. Could be described in rules text or in separate sidebar where pieces rest. Right, so we have a second area where these pieces rest. And as an example, we probably want to show the this one, the Shattered Sudoku, right? So we can put this, can I? Row. So we can do Shattered Sudoku. And then we'll just select this, Control K, apply, right? And then the other one I want to get from Discord. And that was, I think, a battleships puzzle in the daily gas puzzles. Not too long ago, I want to say. Was it in the daily gas? Yes. Oh, it's quite a while ago, actually. All right. So I think this one. Yeah. And what is it called? Battleship Some Sudoku. So L and whoop. So we have Battleship Sums Sudoku. And we'll Control K that one as, nope, Control K that, apply. Now, oh, we don't want this to be bolded. So this one should now be that one and that one. So that's our two examples. All right. So, potential issues. That's an interesting one to think about. Potential issues. It's hard to tell because lots of different... Hey, Mark, you're just hitting me on the final moments of the stream. I'm just kind of coming up with some examples just to guide the students on how these proposals should be done. So I'm kind of coming up, like I did a version of Puzzle Fog just because that's already implemented. So this is kind of like, hey, we know how that worked out. And the pick and place is, I think, a very sort of high value one that could be implemented, should be implemented pretty soon because it's already being used and it could simplify a lot of existing puzzles. But it doesn't really fulfill my requirement of, you know, how exciting is it? And in fact, I'm going to add a column for that. Add column. Yep. And I don't know, what shall we call this? Excitement factor? Uniqueness? Value? What shall we do? Creativity. Creativity. Medium. Low. Right? They're not the most creative features that we could potentially implement. Yeah, it's funny because it's both longer than what I thought I was going to come up with, but at the same time, it's not quite what I originally wanted. Like, it doesn't have the sort of animated bits. And I think there's two kind of basic concepts. There's the animation of like characters and things moving on the board, and then there's the animation of cells, you know, like sort of Factorio type stuff. You know, hey, this cell does that. In fact, that should really be under concepts, right? Multiple phases, simple puzzle. Yeah, let me write that down under no, not new page. Under let's just get bigger. It only gets a little bit bigger for some reason. All right, we have high-level concepts, model faces, simple puzzle, animated reward, model puzzles, puzzles environment. All right, so how about animated characters? So this is either player character controlled in some fashion, interacting with board. Critters interacting with board and acting in some predictable fashion. I mean, like, even something like Pac-Man, you know, could be a concept. I can just throw that in there, but it's like, I mean, it's just the name of a game, right? But how would that apply? I mean, you know, chess mechanics work, right? Animated characters, and then the other one I was thinking, nah. I guess animation Interaction. What's the idea that a cell is more powerful than just static? Dynamic. Dynamic cell. Cells can change or affect other parts of puzzle. For example, forming parts of a machine or mechanism. Machine mechanism. Or so could be form part of parts of machine or mechanism. Part. And finally, cell could change and react to other things. I don't even know other things in puzzle. I mean, it could be reacting to you placing digits. It could be reacting to other cells doing things and changing and so on and so forth. Well, but like I'm not even. I don't mind that actually. Like in terms of building the engine, like if somebody wants to build a Pac-Man, if the engine can do it, then why not? You know what I mean? But like, yeah, there's definitely sort of like, and this is like we're getting to categorizations, right? It's like, for example, when I think of animation, I think of things that cycle. So, for example, it could be timing, but it's a repeating cycle. So if you get it wrong, you just have to wait for things to cycle through again, you know? Or it could be interactive, like it couldn't be self-animating. So imagine something like lights out, and you kind of it toggles every time you press. It toggles, but you can just press again if you. So that might be worth mentioning, right? How to propose feature proposals, how to test feature concepts, high-level concepts. So one category here should be properties of high quality features, right? So this could be, and here we're just a simple list, and we can say things like interactions should be reversible and have minimal negative consequences. Actions, or interactions should not be time dependent. Yeah. So, but that's the thing. I want to keep it kind of open, and I wouldn't mind, let's say, once in a while to add something that's completely outside the normal pencil puzzle expectations. It won't create puzzles that are for everyone, you know. But that's kind of the point. Like I want to open it up to a different audience, you know. And for example, especially in the educational version, where children are involved, they might be more interested in something like Frogger, for example, right? You know, Pac-Man, you know, Frogger, like navigating a character, etc., etc. You know, those are very un-pencil puzzle-like interactions, but that's kind of the point, right? And I spelled this two different ways here. Not be time dependent. What else did you mention though? High quality features. Cause and effects. Effect should be easily deducible and understandable. And this is like a list that's gonna grow quickly, right? Yeah, also it should be testable, right? So it should be RNG based and things like that, you know. So it should be effect should be predictable and testable by setter, right? So the setter shouldn't have to finish the puzzle before they can test if a particular implementation, a particular item actually works, right? But again, this is like a list that's gonna grow and hopefully also shrink. I'd like to be able to minimize this again and kind of reduce the complexity of all of this. Let me just finish this one. Pick and place could be described in rules, text, yeah. So potential issues. Pick and place. I guess one of the issues could be that it's not obvious. Like interactions is not necessarily obvious. It's interaction may be non-obvious. It's hard to tell without knowing how it's going to be used. Also, it's kind of a high-level mechanic, or low-level mechanic actually. So it might be used in lots of different ways. Might be used in unpredictable ways, leading to problematic interactions. So, you know, I don't know how people might use it. So they might use it in ways where the application doesn't actually do the right thing. Things like that, you know. Battleships, like, for example, how do you define that you can't place battleships on top of each other? So it could also be, might be hard to set accurately. Like, you know, can ships overlap or not? How do you define that, etc., right? I mean, we're trying to build like a more open game engine for people to design games with. You know, that's what we're doing. We're kind of doing a Unity for 2D grid puzzles. So, and we're trying to do it for people who we're not expecting to be able to write scripting languages and things like that, you know? All right, I'm starting to get tired. My brain is busted, so I don't think I'm gonna go too much further into this. But we have a spreadsheet where things can be placed. I want to be able to categorize this a little bit. Value high, status implement concept. I'm probably gonna add additional like categories here. Things like how to flag it. You know, is it is it ready? You know, so I don't know. Yeah, for example, this doesn't really have implementation details, right? So we probably want to have something like and implementation detail probably will come on this side next to notes, right? So we can do insert one column to the left, implementation. So this is probably where the kind of the problems start. That probably should still be potential issues. Maybe we can put that to the back next to notes. Sort of the idea being that that we can get the most important items onto the first screen, so you don't have to scroll. That's how I like to set this stuff up. Traffic lights. Traffic lights. I kind of have a rough idea. I guess it's sort of the red, green, you can move, not move, but how that would translate to a feature, I'm not actually super sure. Where is our... I think my Restream IO image is frozen. Let me refresh that. Where was my... I had a... Ah, here we go. So, traffic lights puzzle. How does that actually work? Grid puzzle. Traffic lights. Grid puzzle. I don't actually know this type of game, or at least right now. I'm not sure. Traffic lights. Trying to get home, but you're stuck in the traffic light, middle of rush hour. Afraid another car blinds you, knocking your car's lights out. You have a plan, at least moves and then drive. Image below is clickable. I don't know what I'm meant to do, but there is a matrix. There's another first and two grids. Is there something else I should be doing here? Don't know. If I click on different ones here, does it lead me to different versions? I'm not sure. Maybe this is not the gameplay I'm looking for. Graphic light grid puzzle. Puzzle hunt CMU. Huh. But this might actually be a good source of ideas. Where are we? Current hunt page. Variety of puzzle types. Wordplay, logic, on me. I mean, word puzzles could be potentially, but it's a bit boring. Like, I want something a bit video game-ish. Yeah. I mean, I could steal like ideas from puzzle hunts and things like that. It's like, hey, maybe I can implement the things that would let them do these in a kind of digital way. Word puzzles. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it here. I mean, we have a long list. This needs to be now fleshed out, narrowed down, and I'm hoping for creative new suggestions from the team. That's kind of what I'm here for. Not just my own stuff, you know what I mean? Usually I would be doing some testing, but today we've not actually added any code. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play a quick, let's see, is there a daily puzzle I can play? Oop, party hats. Green. Okay, that's just a colored version. I've done the daily puzzle already. I'm just gonna play one of the Sudoku Solver NL puzzles that I have my little user script for. If it opens, if Twitter's working, and that'll be my wind down, and then we'll call it a day. Here we go. Nope. That was the wrong button. That is not a puzzle ID. Ah, back is itching. All right, let's see. Sudoku Solver to Sudoku Pad. Here we go. And I probably need to resize this for the live stream. If I do this here and then bring this over. It's funny because I never play like this big on the screen, but for the stream it might even make sense. Here we go. So it is a Windoku, so that means these are additional 9x9 regions. And I literally feel like I need to lean back, right? So we have 4s in these 9x9, so 4s are probably a good first digit to look at. There's only one 4 slot available in this row. Yeah, that's it. Not it. 2 7s. Let's just put the 7 here. Not super exciting. 2s. We have 3 2s. Look at that. That gives us a 2 over here. Gives us a 2 over here. 2 in here. 2 here, and 2 in one of these 3. But I think there's only 1 2 over here, so that's our 2 there. And that's the only 2 available in this box, right? That's not the 2. That all our 2s already. Wow, okay. 2's done. That was quick. 4s, we have 2 3s. That just pushes a 3 here. Let's see if there's something happening. There's 2 in the boxes here, so that's not a 3, sorry. It's not a 3. But other than that, I mean, limits of 3 to these, which is not super exciting. 8s. We have 2 8s. That's an 8. That might be enough to get us going. I've been leaning back and probably terrible audio. I need to do better. Alright, so that makes this a 4. That's a 3. That do anything for 4s and 3s. What did I just check? 4s, right? So there's a 4 here. And 3s. 3 here. takes that 3 out, but that doesn't help too much. 8. I've got an 8 here. Got an 8 in these two. Got an 8 here and 8 in these two. That's pretty good. 9s are now over here. And over here. Not super helpful. We're only 4 missing from this window. It's not a 7, and that's not the 1. Are we anywhere close on the 1s? That's not a 1 because there's a 1 here or here, but not super helpful. Alright, 2, we're done. 9s, but 1 9 here. There's actually only 4 digits left on this thing here. So 3, 5, 6, 7. No 3s here, no 6 here, no 6 here. Oh, my ears are starting to hurt. I used to get that from wearing headphones for too long. It's been a while. We got no 5s. Got 1. No. Oh, that's a 6 here. Where's the rest? So that's 6 takes out this. And, well, okay. That gets us a 6 here. Which makes this a 1 6 pair. And this is now a 4 5 and 8 triple. And 6s aren't here anymore. There's a 6 over here. Which means no 6 here. Which means this is the 6 over here. The 1 here. 5 7 is not there. And 6 is here. So that gave us a whole bunch of stuff. Getting a 6 here and here. A 3 here. Keep chipping away at those 3s. Like this. That puts a 3 there, I believe. Alright. 5 7. No 7 here, 7 here. So that's 3 5 9. No 3 here, no 9 there. 3 5 3 5. Alright. That's something. 5 7 1 4 1 5 9 in these. The 9 here. And 1 5 7 9 here. We know there's 9 here, so no 9s there. That doesn't do much. Alright, let's go through them. 1 be here. That's the 1. And these are 5 7 9. 9 7. Alright. 5 and 7. 9 5 3 3. And this one is a 1. And this is a 4 5 or 9. 5 isn't there, so that must be a 4 9. And these two need to be 1 or 4 5. Okay. 1 there, 9 here or here. These 3 are 5 7 9. And these 3 are 1 4 8. There we go. That makes this a 5. This is 7 or 9. No 5s here, 4 8. And then these are 1 7 9. Interesting. These two are 4 5 9. And these two are 4 5 7 9. But not a 5. Why not a 5? We have a 5 on this window already, so this is 4 7 9. So this has got to be the 5. Alright, I think that'll resolve it, and we'll probably as good as done. 9 7 9 7 1 8 1 4 9 7 9 5 8 4 5 4. That's it. Awesome. All right. I'm going to write up a post for the 9x9 CI students. Take a look at this page. Hopefully this makes sense to them. And I guess I can just refer them to the video if they need more information. In fact, maybe it's worthwhile linking to the stream at the top of this page. Future proposals. And what shall we call this? Live stream about this page. I guess we can just do that. And then I can just link them to this page, and that's all I need. Awesome. All right, thanks for everybody who stopped by. I'll add to NY Dominic 333s joined from Twitch and did not see what's happening on YouTube, but gave some really nice suggestions. Thanks for stopping by, really appreciate it. And we had Alithana and Catnip and Shelby stop by. Robin had a quick question about the app, and Rack Finks left us for a more interesting stream over with Zitamath, which I highly recommend you check out as well. And Mark, last but not least, oh, and Traveler, obviously, joined in and mentioned Push Sudoku. So I'd love to find out more about that. I hope he'll be back someday and let me know where I can find these Push Sudoku. And Mark, thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Take care. Have a good evening. And as usual, thanks for hanging out. Oh, and check out my Patreon at patreon.com/SvenCodes, which obviously at the end of each month I lose a couple of patrons, so it would be nice if we could fill those up again. I'd like to see that going up, not down. That would be great. I'm putting a lot of work into this, and so far it's not really paying off. But we'll get there eventually, I hope. Take care. Thanks.